A landlord decided that he would take in his fellow Senegalese illegal aliens, migrants, and bring them into his furniture store and stuff them in to the point where they were back to back, belly to belly, nut to butt, in the worst possible scenario. And then when the buildings department and fire department raided the place, he had this to say about what a great humanitarian he is.
The guys will be sleeping on the streets for days. So when they started coming to me, telling me their stories, I started helping them.
And he helped them up in the Bronx along East Kingsbridge and Fordham, in what used to be a cellular service storefront. He was the landlord there, and he started stacking them in 2 by 2. Nancy, could you explain, because you've worked in real estate law, you rented apartments, you were involved in dealing with landlords and what the rules and regulations are. You explain to our listeners what the right way to do things is according to the rules for everyone?
Well, I'm not sure what the right way is to do, but what they have a lot of is single room occupancy. That's it's sort of overlapping laws guide what these things are. So it's not a traditional apartment. It's not how you would rent a room out in your house exactly. So there's like certain parameters to this. So SROs, supposedly there's about 30 to 40,000 still existing in New York City. And what they are is a lot of them, unfortunately, are illegal because it's very, very, it's almost like you have to be grandfathered in at a certain year. And it doesn't require much. It requires that you have a bedroom where it's a minimum of like 180 feet, square feet. It requires you to have a sink and a stove or some sort of cooking surface, but you don't need to have a bathroom within the room. So it just needs to have a shared bathroom in a hallway. So like imagine like dormitory, college living. It would almost be like saying that. But what happens is there's a lot of these illegal ones. So now I was in real estate, doing rentals for a long time throughout the boroughs, but also I lived in Sunset Park for about 10 years, and that area is ripe with SROs. And what happens is, so the SROs there, it's pretty much a immigrant Chinese community, and what the landlords who own these buildings do is they carve up the floors into basically little tiny squares. And so what would normally be like a 2-person house in Sunset Park, easily is fitting 30 to 40, maybe more people. And again, so the problem is you see all these people coming in and out, but it's very, very hard to keep track of who's living there. Well, that's an example of an illegal SRO.
Well, the city can.
Yeah.
The guys will be sleeping on the streets for days. So when they started coming to me, telling me their stories, I started helping them.
Oh, what a humanitarian. He's taking $300 a month from them, and he's telling them, I'm going to use this money. I'm going to buy a bigger place, and it's going to be the House of Senegal. We're going to take good care of you, you pig.
No, that was great how he made that statement. Like he's doing a capital fundraising project.
Yeah.
Where, this is going just to this like happy-go-lucky flop house for all the Senegalese people.
They gave him a ticket. You're going to get serious with, again, Rudy never cracked down on it. Bloomberg never cracked down on it. De Blasio, Eric Adams. If I were the mayor, I know where all these spots are. I would have a plan put into place because these are illegally converted locations, not just basements, every floor. I remember we were looking for this pedophile who was going after kids in Corona. State Senator Peralta at the time, unfortunately, he passed away early. He gave us space to operate out of it because the cops just didn't want to deal with it because it was all illegal aliens. We don't want to deal with that. We went from building to building along 108th, 103rd, right underneath the number 7 chain. Nancy, we'd go inside. They took closets. They carved out a closet that you would normally put clothes in, and they have a lock on the door, padlock, and that was the guy's apartment. And he had to pay $100 a week cash. And you could see they were stealing electricity in the building, stealing water, sewage lines, all these cable dishes. Like, where did they get that? The point is, it is so obvious if you're a building inspector, and they know. I don't want to fault them. They're not getting paid off here. They're being told, ignore it. Ignore it, because what are we going to do if we have to evict all these people and put them out into the street, which happened in these two locations. The city came, swept them up, probably brought them to the Hotel Roosevelt to be reprocessed and to be sent into a neighborhood near you. They'll probably plan on putting up another tent somewhere at our taxpayers' expense.
Yeah, and again, so the reason why, so now you have all these different agencies that are issuing, so Department of Buildings, you have the fire department, so the landlord gets a violation for failure to maintain the building and occupancy. Then you have this individual who's the business owner, he's getting a violation. So again, it's very mismatched. So he can get a violation, but then the landlord still continues forward. It's, again, it's hard to get a structure, but exactly what you just said, they always know. And the excuse they give, if you ever look at the Department of Buildings records, when they're supposed to do an inspection because there is a complaint and there's a expected violation, if they claim that if they knock on the door, no one answers it, that they'll actually have to close the case eventually if people don't open the door up enough. Like, to tell me they have that little authority.
This would be my policy as mayor. You go the first time, you go the second time, you go to the third time. They're just not opening the door. You break down the door, and then you put up a new door when you leave. That's it. A better door, the new door, than the old door. But you don't let them pull this nonsense. And let me tell you something. Every time you go into these facilities, you see extension cords everywhere, complete violation, fire hazard. The e-bikes with these batteries, lithium batteries everywhere, space heaters, hot plates strewn all over the place. A fire hazard like you can't believe. And the city closes its eyes to it. Again, I'm not just blaming Eric Adams here. De Blasio, Bloomberg, Rudy, they did nothing about this. Because, again, they're mostly in migrant areas. You don't want to be considered anti-migrant, anti-illegal alien. And more importantly, once you padlock the place, where are you going to put all these people? In some of these buildings that were two-family house in Corona, Elmhurst, those areas, there's 120 people living.
Yeah, I mean, and
120 freaking people. Look at all the garbage that's put out on garbage collection. That you look at the house, you say, how could they have generated all that garbage at two-family house?
And that's a logistical thing. By having all these people who are doing SROs, you're not getting a full census of what's going on in an area, which is why the services that should be going along with this level of population. So when I was in Sunset Park, especially during the summer, there was consistent times where the power was going out because the wires were heating up to the point of frying because there's so many people using them. They're accounting for 3-family households, and they have 50 people living in the household.
This is not new. Okay, it'll make shocking headlines. A lot of you will say, oh, this is because of the migrant crisis. It's been going on for years. For years. And the Department of Buildings, the corrupt one they had in Eric Ulrich, oh, my God, he's going to jail. He's soon to go on trial for corruption. All roads will lead to Eric Adams for the fundraising. So the both of them will be on a daisy chain perp walk on that one. And now you got Jimmy Otto, who is the buildings commissioner of the city of New York, the former borough president of Staten Island. This guy wouldn't know what to do with a bag of nails and a hammer if his life depended on it.